Hey, we're live. Hi, everyone. Hope you're all doing well and calling in from wherever it is that you are. My name is Anthony Suarez, and I am the Cloud Product Evangelist at OVH Cloud US. So, if you've been keeping up with us on our socials and maybe even attended one of our webinars this month, you'll know that October is Social Security Awareness Month. And each week we'll be talking to you about a different topic related to cybersecurity. During today's live stream, we'll be diving into natural disasters and cybersecurity and some solutions to mitigate the threats to your organization. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, last year, the US suffered over $152 billion in damages caused by 20 natural disasters. And while many of those, or many of us, are familiar with the floods, submerging cars underwater, and tornadoes tearing down homes, businesses are also suffering catastrophic losses from these destructive events. And businesses that are ill prepared for natural disaster are not only prone to losing highly critical data, but also the crippling costs of downtime as power outages take down their business critical applications and customer facing services. And it's super scary because a survey from Gartner found that the cost of downtime was $5,600 per minute, which is $336,000 per hour. And yeah, that's an average. Of course, smaller companies would lose a lot less per minute and per hour, but understand, the smaller the company, the bigger they rely on that income, and it's just as devastating for them. Now, Hurricane Ian just decimated large sections of Florida. Last year, the Texas freeze shut down Texas for several hours, while Hurricane Ida caused power outages in New Orleans and Houma, submerged the town of Jean Lafitte, and buried nearly every structure in Grand Isle under 3 feet of sand. And really makes you wonder how long an organization can be down before your doors never, before it becomes a case where your doors never open again. And to make matters worse, natural disasters actually set the stage for cyber attacks. Randy Rose, Senior Director of Cyber Threat Intelligence, says that they almost always see some spike in cyber attack attempts impacted by any major event. And whether it's natural disaster or something else, they say it's an easier way for threat actors to gain a foothold because bad actors can and will take advantage of any system that's in a weakened state. So let's talk about how exactly a natural disaster can affect your organization's cybersecurity. Now, to start off, power outages can cause a multitude of problems to your cybersecurity. This includes loss of your company's essential data, such as patents, customer data records, and so forth. Your business critical tools and services are completely down: servers, mail systems, ERP, CRM, you name it. And so are your customer facing services. Your website, customer portal, and anything else won't be accessible to customers. As a result, the downtime resulting from a power outage isn't only extremely expensive, but it puts the entire organization in a state of paralysis where nothing can really be done. Now, one example of this was the Texas freeze last year when Texas saw an unusual cold snap turn into a devastating ice storm that took out critical utilities across the state. The initial storm hit on February 13th, but the damage and repairs went on for months. Widespread power outages and shutdowns of water services could have easily spelled disaster for the state's data centers. As bad as the storm was, and as tenuous as things got, however, most data centers made it out okay. While some data centers were getting close to running out of fuel for their generators, competitors with more than enough fuel to avert the disaster were able to share with those running low. I mean, for everyone who relies on Texas-based data center facilities to serve their applications, data, content, and customers, it was a pretty big eye-opener. And like I've mentioned earlier, natural disasters can also set the stage for cyber attacks. Cyber criminals are becoming increasingly sophisticated and will take advantage of natural disasters to wreak havoc on critical infrastructure, including transportation, emergency response, water and sewer systems, and hospitals. Last year, the Multi-State Information Sharing and Analysis Center, a federally funded group that helps state and local governments prevent and respond to digital threats, has been involved in 10 virtual exercises. Half of those included discussions about how to plan for the dual impact of a cyber attack and natural disasters. Now, we haven't seen the latest damage totals for cybersecurity stats for Hurricane Ian. At least I haven't at all. But we actually saw this happen with Hurricane Katrina, which was the costliest natural disaster in U.S. history. I mean, causing countless deaths, and not to mention $160 billion in damages. And that was in 2005 dollars. What is it now? What things are now, it's like about 300 billion. After the hurricane hit, malicious hackers were creating fake donation websites and starting fictitious phone scams where they ask for funds for disaster relief, only to take advantage of the personal information supplied by the victims. A similar behavior occurred during Hurricane Florence, where phishing scams spiked as hackers attempted to trick the vulnerable people of North Carolina. Now, you may be saying, yeah, but what's that got to do with my business? But you need to keep in mind that these are social engineering attacks and that these target people, not systems. Your personnel may also be more susceptible to social engineering during a time of crisis and inadvertently divulge information that just benefits the hackers. So now we're familiar with how natural disasters can threaten your organization's cybersecurity. Let's dive into some best practices to prevent that from happening. In general, it's best to be proactive and prepare for natural disasters way in advance. Your security experts and IT teams need to work together to ensure that all systems are up to date and that your data is protected, which is an essential task to prevent any type of security issue. But it's especially important in the case of an unexpected storm or disaster. Since larger organizations can compile vast amounts of information, part of your DRP should be to compile a list of all of your corporate data and decide what is expendable and what absolutely needs to be salvaged. That information should be backed up, secured, and encrypted so it can't be lost. Another proactive measure is to move all data and essential programs to a cloud computing service. One major advantage of this setup is that if your office is damaged, your employees can still resume work remotely, as they'll have access to their necessary programs from anywhere. On top of that, most cloud computing companies also have their own in-house security teams which watch your infrastructure in real time, which is especially important when you're preoccupied with a natural disaster. This also makes distributed data protection possible. If evacuation becomes necessary, you won't scramble to find a way to securely transport your data, such as emailing your copies of your data to your email server. In a stressed environment, this may sound like a really good idea. You'll have your data constantly available in different geographical locations so you can focus on your safety in the event a natural disaster occurs and evacuation is necessary. And of course, be on high alert for suspicious activity, which could be bad actors. All right, now let's dive into the solutions we have available. Move some or all of your workloads away from on-prem into the cloud. You can retain the same tool sets, policies, and procedures used in your on-prem because vSphere Web Client is the same tool your admins are used to working with. Many providers' portals and tool sets change and don't leverage the vSphere Web Client. This can add another layer of skill sets that need to be maintained. And lastly, it helps with your disaster recovery, as we touched on earlier, because if your DC goes down, your HPC will be able to be back online quickly. All right, next we've got Veeam, which some of you may have heard of, is a solid solution for your backup needs. Veeam's available on OVH Cloud through our Backup as a Service, where we manage your backups for you. Or if you prefer managing Veeam on your own, we have licenses available for your enterprise so you can oversee everything. With Veeam, you can rest assured that your data is being backed up to the cloud. And if a disaster ever strikes, your on-prem data just becomes toast. You'll have backups in the cloud, courtesy of OVH Cloud and Veeam. Another cool thing about Veeam is that you can protect your backups with immutability, which means that it can't be altered or changed by anyone for a predetermined duration. This is great if a bad actor gets in and wants to tamper with your backups. And this is really the biggest danger of this nowadays is ransomware, where backups can also be encrypted if they're not protected in this way. And lastly, if you've got data that you need to keep around but don't use regularly, there's a cost-effective tier of storage to make sure your data is always accessible. That's for Veeam. We also we offer vRack, or virtual rack technology, that makes it possible for your OVH cloud services to be connected, isolated, and spread across one or multiple private secure networks within OVH Cloud. With vRack, you're able to achieve distributed data protection to make sure your data is available in any of our data centers worldwide. Whether we're looking at Vint Hill, Hillsborough, or you want to have a secondary site stored somewhere in Europe, like in Roubaix or London or Frankfurt. What vRack allows is for that data to be interconnected across a private VLAN on layer 2, and because we don't charge traffic, you're able to push backups anywhere in the globe to protect them. And the best part is, again, just think about it, you're guaranteed unmetered global traffic. vRack also lives on OVH Cloud's guaranteed low latency network with throughputs up to 50 gigabits per second, depending on your plan. Also, we support up to 4,000 VLANs per vRack. So you can literally take a very large corporation or a much smaller organization and for very little cost, add a regional protection to your disaster recovery plan. And lastly, if the bad actor does get in, we've partnered with Zerto to make sure you recover quickly and get your operations back to normal during a disaster. With continuous data protection and instant recovery, you can achieve the lowest recovery point objectives and the fastest recovery time objectives. So you can securely replicate from your on-premises data center to your hosted private cloud, or even between your hosted private clouds in different parts of the world, of the country. Sorry, in the United States, you can have 2 data centers across on either coast. That means that if a disaster ever strikes, you can recover almost instantly and get your organization back up quickly. And the platform is user-friendly, so you spend less time scratching your head during a disaster and more time making sure your disaster recovery plan is ready for any instance or anything that could happen. Lastly, something that's exclusive to Zerto on OVH Cloud is that our automation builds out your infrastructure for you when deploying Zerto, either between 2 OVH Cloud data centers, so you can just log in and begin creating your VPGs and start replicating right away. This saves our customers the huge headache and expertise and time to actually build the infrastructure themselves. If you're planning on deploying Zerto between your on-premise data center and OVH Cloud, our automation is still there, and we'll build the side on OVH Cloud for you. And then you can work with our sales engineers who can assist with building out the on-prem side and even help linking the 2 sites together. I mean, there's nothing worse than having to learn and deploy an entire infrastructure when you can actually just have it done for you automatically. You can think of Zerto as your last line of defense to come and save the day. And because it's Cybersecurity Month, we're actually offering a 30-day trial of Zerto for users that are interested. So if you've been looking for a disaster recovery solution, now's the perfect chance to try it on your own environment and test some use cases specific to your business. It's only available until the end of October. Okay, so we're getting close. So head on over to ovhcloud.com and get your free trial started. And since we're on the topic of all these great things OVH Cloud has to offer, let's talk about some of the exclusive features you'll enjoy at OVH Cloud. Starting with the fact that out of the box, OVH Cloud provides you with comprehensive access to vSphere vCenter. With direct access to vCenter, whether you're working on the cloud or on-prem, there's no change of tool set or procedures. This is important because as you move more workloads to the cloud, the complexity of learning different applications in the new environment is a productivity killer. Rather than introduce new technologies requiring new skill sets, move forward at a more predictable rate by keeping the skill gap small and leveraging what you already use on-prem. OVH Cloud also uses automation, as I mentioned earlier, but to monitor your host's heartbeats. If a consistent heartbeat's not present on the A side or the B side, an additional host is automatically deployed, allowing your cluster to cool off and recalibrate. There's no need to sign a special support contract to get this service because you get it out of the box and totally free of charge. Our objective is to keep your clusters and your business up and running. And I'm not sure if everyone already knows this, but OVH Cloud's relationship with VMware started a long time before VMware developed vSAN. As a result, our customers can mix and match vSAN hosts and non-vSAN hosts or even attach NFS storage to vSAN or to the vSAN host to add more storage without more compute. This lets you save money by not over provisioning, since you get to choose the compute and storage option that best suits your environment. Also, by default, OVH Cloud product is protected from DDoS attacks. Our anti-DDoS infrastructure combines edge, backbone, and data center network logic and has the proven capacity to mitigate attacks up to 1.3 terabits per second in size. Best of all, DDoS protection is free of charge with OVH Cloud and available to all customers, regardless of company size. And finally, the perk that gets everyone excited, and I mentioned it before, we don't charge you for data traffic. With OVH Cloud, there's never a charge for traffic pushing from one data center to another for backup replications or even a disaster recovery operation. Now, the list of what makes OVH Cloud so great can go on, but let's start answering questions. If anyone has some questions, please, you're welcome to post them right now. And in the meantime, since we're sitting here and I'm waiting for some questions, what I'll do is I'll just answer, bring up some questions that are pretty common, I get pretty often. One of them is, what types of security controls are in place at OVH? I mean, how do I know if my data is safe from a physical or a cybersecurity perspective? Well, we can't get into all of the specifics. Both of our US data centers and most, if not all, of our services meet common standards for security controls, such as ISO, HIPAA, standard protocols, PCI, DSS, SOC, SOC 2. I mean, the security of our infrastructure and services are audited by independent third parties on a regular basis, and we keep records of all of our compliance programs. Okay. Another question that often comes up is because after mentioning that one, people go, okay, well, what's the difference between SOC Type 1 and Type 2, and why should it matter? Well, SOC 2 Type 1 is a report that declares the effectiveness of security controls for a specific point in time, based on the reporting and documentation a company already has regarding those controls. So it's just a snapshot in time. Whereas Type 2 report, the SOC 2 Type 2, details the effectiveness of the security controls over a significant period of time. And the company has to pass through an examination of those controls by a third party. So SOC 2 Type 2 really is a great way to leverage and make sure that companies adhere to the promises they make. Let's see, if a user deletes a file from a server accidentally, do you have to recover the entire server to get the file back? And no, you can do a drive mount with Zerto and Veeam to recover specific files from specific folders as far back as your recovery journal will let you go. So no, you don't have to recover an entire virtual machine. All righty. If anybody, what I'll do is, those are the questions I often get. Okay. If customers ask, customers ask if there's a way to keep their DR plan up to date and tested, but don't have the capacity for frequent tests. Yeah. Zerto and Veeam allow for automation for failover testing to occur on its own. So you're making sure failovers are working well and your DR plan is effective. That's a really nice thing about both of those platforms that we support. They really take DR seriously, and they've put in all the tools that customers would normally need to make sure that their environments are safe and that their backups are secure and functioning. And in terms of replication, the ability to, with Zerto, replication's instantaneous, but they also have the ability to go back in time and recover from earlier places. All right. So that pretty much does it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Please reach out to us if you have any questions at ovhcloud.com. And as usual, it's been a pleasure, and I hope you guys have a fabulous day. Thank you.